Welcome to our YouTube channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. We teach you English through real stories so you can learn and improve while enjoying interesting content. And today, we're talking about a boy who began life with very little, but grew up to build one of the most famous coffee companies in the world, Starbucks. This story isn't just about business success. It's about resilience, determination, and how your beginnings don't have to define your future. This boy's name was Howard Schultz. He was born on July 19, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York. Howard grew up in the Canarsie public housing projects. These were small apartments where families with low incomes lived. Life there wasn't easy. The buildings were crowded, the neighborhood could be rough, and money was always tight. Howard's father, Fred, had once served in the army. After that, he worked as a truck driver, delivering things for others. He worked long hours but never earned much money. His mother, Elaine, stayed at home most of the time. Sometimes, she worked as a receptionist when she could. She tried to keep the family safe and together, even during hard times. Howard remembered moments when his father would come home exhausted from work, his face showing the weight of the day. There was one time, when Howard was very young, his father got injured on the job. They had no health insurance, and his father couldn't work for weeks. Howard watched how quickly things could fall apart when there was no safety net. That memory stayed with him for life. The family didn't have luxuries. Vacations were rare. New clothes were often hand-me-downs from neighbors or relatives. But Howard's parents gave him something more valuable than money. They taught him resilience. He learned that life could be unfair, but you could still keep going. Howard wasn't born with special connections or wealth, but he did have determination. He found his escape and hope through sports, especially football. On the football field, he learned about discipline, teamwork, and pushing himself beyond limits. It wasn't just a game for him, it was proof that effort could lead to results. His mother believed in him deeply. She often told him, "Howard, you can change your story. You are not limited by where you come from." Those words were powerful. They gave him the courage to dream bigger than the world around him. Howard worked hard in school and on the field. His dedication paid off when he earned a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University. This was a turning point. No one in his family had ever gone to college before. Leaving Brooklyn for college opened Howard's eyes to a bigger world. He saw possibilities that had once felt out of reach. In 1975, he graduated with a degree in communications. It was a proud moment not just for him, but for his entire family. He had achieved something they had only dreamed of. Looking back, Howard would often say that his childhood struggles shaped him. They made him hungry, not just for success, but for meaning. He knew what it was like to feel powerless, and he promised himself that if he ever built something great, he would create opportunities for others. After graduating from college in 1975, Howard Schultz stepped into the working world full of ambition. He didn't yet know where life would take him, but he knew he wanted to build something meaningful. His first jobs were not glamorous. He worked for Xerox, selling office equipment. There, he learned how to talk to people, how to listen, and how to handle rejection. Later, he joined a Swedish company called Hemmarplast, which sold household goods like coffee makers. Howard was in charge of sales in the United States. He worked hard, traveling from city to city, talking to store owners, and learning about the business world one handshake at a time. It was during this job, in 1981, that something caught his attention. He noticed that a small company in Seattle, Washington, was buying more coffee makers than almost anyone else. This company wasn't a big department store or a huge chain. It was called Starbucks. At that time, Starbucks was nothing like the coffee shops we know today. It didn't sell cups of coffee to drink. Instead, it sold coffee beans, tea, and equipment for brewing coffee at home. The founders were passionate about high-quality coffee, and they wanted to share that passion with their customers. Howard was curious. Why would this small store in Seattle buy so many coffee makers? What was so special about them? He decided to fly across the country to find out. When Howard walked into Starbucks for the first time, he was hit by a rich, warm smell the deep aroma of freshly roasted coffee beans. He had never experienced anything like it before. The shelves were lined with bags of coffee, each from a different part of the world. There were grinders, French presses, and brewing tools everywhere. The staff spoke about coffee like it was a piece of art, describing flavors and origins with care and excitement. In that moment, something happened inside Howard. Coffee was no longer just a drink to him. It was a story. It was connection. It was culture. He realized that coffee had the power to bring people together, to create moments, to slow life down just enough for people to connect. Howard went back to New York, but he couldn't stop thinking about Starbucks. He thought about how special the experience was, how much care they put into their product, and how different it felt from anything else he had seen. For a year, he tried to convince Starbucks to hire him. At first, the founders said no. They were happy with their small, focused business. But Howard didn't give up. His persistence and passion finally paid off. In 1982, they agreed to bring him on as their director of marketing. It was the start of something life-changing. Howard threw himself into the role, learning everything he could about coffee beans, roasting methods, and brewing techniques. But more importantly, he started thinking about what Starbucks could become. The real turning point came in 1983. Starbucks sent Howard to Italy to attend a trade show. While there, he wandered the streets of Milan and discovered something magical: the Italian coffeehouse culture. In every neighborhood, there were espresso bars filled with people, friends meeting, business deals being made, strangers chatting over a quick cup. It wasn't just about coffee, it was about community. Howard was captivated. He thought, why don't we have this in America? He could already picture a place where people could come together over great coffee, not just to drink it, but to share moments and build relationships. That trip to Italy planted the seed for the Starbucks we know today. But bringing that vision to life would not be easy. There would be resistance, challenges, and risks ahead. Still, Howard had found his calling. Coffee was no longer just a product he sold. It was the mission of his life. When Howard Schultz joined Starbucks in 1982 as director of marketing, he stepped into a world that felt exciting and full of possibility. But his journey up to that point, the jobs he had before Starbucks, had already taught him lessons that would become the foundation for everything he later built. Before Starbucks, Howard's first real professional job was at Xerox. Selling office equipment door-to-door might not sound glamorous, but it was like a training camp for his communication skills. At Xerox, Howard learned that selling wasn't about pushing a product. It was about listening. If you understood people's needs, you could help them find solutions. He also learned how to face rejection. Some days he would hear no dozens of times, but instead of feeling discouraged, he began to see each no as one step closer to a yes. After Xerox, Howard moved to Hemmarplast, a Swedish company that made household products like coffee makers. He started in a small role but worked his way up to vice president of sales. It was here he learned another important lesson. Success comes from curiosity. It was curiosity that made him notice Starbucks, that small coffee company in Seattle, buying so many coffee makers. If he hadn't been curious enough to investigate, he might never have walked into that store in 1981. Joining Starbucks was exciting, but Howard quickly saw that it was different from the vision he had in his mind. The founders cared deeply about quality coffee but wanted to remain small, selling high-quality beans and equipment, not serving drinks. The turning point came during a trip to Italy in 1983. Walking through Milan, Howard saw coffee bars everywhere. They weren't just places to drink espresso. They were hubs where people connected. Customers chatted with friends, greeted baristas by name, and enjoyed a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Howard fell in love with the idea. He dreamed of bringing this coffeehouse culture to America, a place where coffee wasn't just a drink, but an experience. When he returned to Seattle, he pitched his idea to the Starbucks founders. They said no. They wanted to stick to selling beans and equipment. It was a moment of disappointment, but also a test. Should he let go of his dream or find another way? This is where all the lessons from his early career came together. Persistence from Xerox, curiosity from Hemmarplast, and the belief that great ideas are worth fighting for. In 1985, Howard left Starbucks and started Il Giornale, inspired by the Italian coffee culture he loved. It was a big risk with no guarantee of success, but he believed in his vision so strongly that he was willing to start from scratch. Those early experiences had prepared him for the leap. To work hard, stay curious, push through rejection, and trust his instincts. By 1985, Howard Schultz had made one of the biggest decisions of his life. He had left Starbucks, the company he loved, because its founders couldn't see the vision he saw. They wanted to stay small, selling coffee beans and equipment. Howard wanted something much bigger. A coffee house where people could connect, relax, and feel part of a community. Starting his own company, Il Giornale, was both exciting and terrifying. He had the idea, but he didn't have the money to bring it to life. He needed investors who would believe in his dream. Over the next year, Howard spoke to more than 200 potential investors. Most said no. Some thought coffee shops would never work in America. Others thought people wouldn't pay extra for high-quality coffee. Every no could have been a reason to quit, but Howard refused to give up. He believed so strongly in his vision that he kept going, one conversation at a time. Finally, he raised enough money to open his first Il Giornale store in 1986. From the moment customers walked in, they could feel the difference. The space was warm and inviting. The smell of freshly brewed espresso filled the air. Baristas greeted people with a smile and remembered their names. The menu offered more than just coffee. It offered an experience. Howard had brought a piece of Italy to the streets of America, and people loved it. Il Giornale quickly became popular, and Howard began to dream even bigger. Then, in 1987, an unexpected opportunity came. The original owners of Starbucks decided to sell the company. This was the moment Howard had been waiting for. If he could buy Starbucks, he could combine its high-quality beans with his coffeehouse vision and build something extraordinary. The asking price for Starbucks was $3.8 million. For Howard, it was a huge amount of money, far more than he had. But he knew this was his chance, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. He went back to the investors who had supported Il Giornale, and he found new ones. He told them Starbucks could become the leading coffee brand in America. He spoke with passion, painting a picture of what the future could look like. Slowly, the money came together. In August 1987, Howard bought Starbucks. He merged it with Il Giornale, kept the Starbucks name, and became the company's CEO. For Howard, this was more than just a business deal. It was the start of turning his dream into reality. But he knew the real work was only beginning. He needed to transform Starbucks from a small chain of stores into a place where people all over the world could feel the same warmth and connection he had felt in Italy. The first step was to create a culture inside the company that matched the experience he wanted customers to have. He trained baristas to treat every customer like a guest in their own home. He insisted on high-quality coffee beans, even if it cost more. He made sure every store felt like a welcoming space, not just a place to grab a drink. Howard's idea for Starbucks was never just about selling coffee. It was about creating a third place, not home, not work, but a special place where people could gather, talk, and feel a sense of belonging. That idea would guide every decision he made from that moment on. And while the road ahead would bring new challenges, Howard finally had the chance to build the Starbucks he had always imagined. When Howard Schultz acquired Starbucks in 1987 and merged it with his Il Giornale stores, he carried a powerful vision in his heart. He was not just growing a business. He was building a place where people could feel welcomed, connected, and inspired. Now the real test began, turning that vision into reality, one store at a time. The first Starbucks store under his full guidance felt special the moment customers crossed the threshold. The rich aroma of freshly roasted coffee beans greeted them like an old friend. Soft lighting created a gentle, inviting glow, instead of cold counters and hurried lines. There were warm greetings and relaxed conversations. Howard insisted that baristas treat every person like a valued guest, not just a customer. He wanted them to smile, to remember names, to share a kind word. He told his team, "This is not just about coffee. This is about people." Each interaction was an opportunity to lift someone's day, even for a moment. He also made sure the coffee was never just good enough. He chose high-quality beans, even when they cost more. He believed that people deserved something special, something that transcended a simple drink. When customers took their first sip, he wanted them to feel the care behind it. The careful selections, the perfect roast, the love poured into every cup. Opening this first store was an act of courage. Investors worried, will people in America pay extra for a premium coffee in a relaxed cafe? Many said no, but Howard said yes, because he had seen it with his own eyes on the streets of Milan. He trusted in the power of connection, and he believed that people everywhere longed for a moment of warmth and belonging. Not everything went smoothly. Some days were filled with errors and learning curves. Machines broke. The espresso was too strong or too weak. Even so, each mistake became a lesson. Howard reminded his team that it was okay to stumble at first. It was more important to care, to try again, and to get better. The community responded. People came not just for coffee, but for the feeling. To sit, to talk, to be seen. Young professionals found a place to study. Friends caught up over stories. New faces became familiar. And familiar faces became friends. Each smile, each returning customer, became proof that Howard's vision was alive. Howard often walked into his stores, listening quietly. He paid attention to small things. Baristas laughing with each other, customers leaning into their conversations, people pausing in the moment. He believed that building a company was about nurturing humanity, not just profits. Around him, the Starbucks family began to grow. Baristas who truly saw themselves as caretakers of experience, managers who believed in community. Every store felt like a heart beating with purpose. In that first store, under Howard's leadership, the spirit of possibility was alive. It was a place made of hope, strong coffee, kind words, and the idea that small things can change days, and days can change lives. Looking back, Howard knew he had taken a risk. But when he saw a customer take a seat, breathe in the scent, smile in quiet gratitude, he saw that it wasn't a risk at all. It was a promise that magic can be found in the everyday. In an honest cup of coffee shared with warmth. This first store wasn't just a success, it was the beginning of something far bigger, a movement to bring people together. The journey of building something real is never easy. For Howard Schultz, challenges came as loud reminders that a dream must be tested by trials before it can grow strong. In the late 1990s, Starbucks was exploding in popularity. Hundreds of stores were opening and the brand became known worldwide. But growth brought danger. Stores started to feel the same. The coffee didn't smell fresh. Baristas prepared drinks quickly, not carefully. The stores lost the warmth and soul they once had. Even their breakfast sandwiches made the place smell like burnt cheese instead of coffee. This shift made customers feel less connected. Starbucks was becoming something people recognized, but did not love. Then came the financial crisis of 2008. People were losing jobs. Families had less money for extras like coffee. Starbucks struggled too. Its stock dropped by nearly half. Customer visits fell. Many thought the company might fail. Howard felt the weight of every store that closed and every partner who worried about the future. He knew this moment would test him more than any challenge before, so he decided to act, and it was brave. He closed all 7,100 U.S. stores for a single afternoon. It was a powerful message. Quality and purpose still mattered. Baristas were retrained, not just in how to make coffee, but in how to connect with each customer. They learned how to brew with heart and talk with care. It wasn't just about coffee, it was about restoring belief. Belief from customers, from employees, and from Howard himself. He cut hundreds of underperforming stores and laid off thousands of employees. These were painful choices, but he chose them to save the soul of Starbucks. To keep morale high during hard times, Schultz did something bold. He did not cut benefits. Instead, he expanded them. Starbucks still offered health care to part-time workers. They introduced stock options so employees felt ownership. Schultz believed that caring for people built true strength, not shortcuts or cost cuts. Even with successes, failures taught important lessons. Once, Starbucks tried to launch a carbonated coffee drink called Mazagran. It failed. Instead of hiding the mistake, Schultz kept a bottle of it on his desk as a reminder. Failure is part of growth. That failure led to another idea, the Frappuccino, which became a huge hit. Through setbacks, Howard kept going. He showed that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the path. By 2010, the plan had worked. The company recovered, customers came back, profits returned. Starbucks was stronger, not just as a business, but as a place people could love. For English learners reading this, remember, setbacks are not the end of your story. They are where your strength is forged. Howard Schultz's journey shows us that belief, courage, caring for others, and learning from mistakes can lead you back to your dream, even when everything seems to crumble. Howard Schultz had a dream, but a dream alone is not enough. Dreams need hard work, ideas, and courage. After buying Starbucks, Howard knew that if he wanted the company to grow, he had to do something special. He did not want Starbucks to be just another coffee shop. He wanted it to be a place where people felt welcome. A place where they could relax, meet friends, or even work. Howard believed the coffee shop should be a third place. Not home, not work, but somewhere in between. He thought about his time in Italy, where coffee bars were warm and full of life. People laughed, talked, and enjoyed their espresso. Howard wanted that same feeling in America. So, he started making changes. The stores got a new look. Warmer lighting, comfortable chairs, music that made you want to stay. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Starbucks was becoming more than a store. It was becoming an experience. But Howard also knew something important. To grow a company, you must treat your people well. He made sure Starbucks employees, called partners, felt valued. He offered them health benefits and even stock options, so they could share in the company's success. This was unusual at the time, especially for people working part-time. But Howard believed that happy employees create happy customers. The ideas kept coming. Starbucks started selling different coffee drinks. Cappuccinos, lattes, frappuccinos. They introduced pastries and sandwiches. They began selling coffee beans so people could enjoy Starbucks at home. Every new idea brought in more customers. Howard was not afraid to try new things. Sometimes they worked. Sometimes they didn't. But he believed in experimenting. He said, in life, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Starbucks began opening more stores, first in Seattle, then across America, and then in other countries. At first, people wondered, will this work? Can the world really have so many coffee shops? But Howard's vision was clear. Starbucks could be everywhere, but each store should still feel personal and welcoming. As the company grew, challenges grew too. It was harder to make sure every store had the same quality and friendly service. Howard worked hard to keep the Starbucks culture alive. He visited stores, talked to partners, and reminded everyone of the mission. To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Soon, Starbucks became a symbol of quality coffee around the world. From busy streets in New York to quiet corners in Tokyo, people recognized the green siren logo. The name Starbucks meant more than coffee. It meant community, comfort, and connection. But Howard never forgot where it all started. A small store in Seattle, and a boy from Brooklyn with a big dream. He wanted others to know that growth is not about luck. It's about passion, persistence, and the courage to keep going when others doubt you. For you listening to this, Howard's story is a reminder. Building something, whether it's a company, a skill, or a life happens step by step. You don't need to be perfect from the start. You need to keep learning, keep improving, and keep believing. Howard grew Starbucks into thousands of stores, but more importantly, he grew an idea that a cup of coffee can bring people together, and that is a powerful thing. Imagine walking down the street in a city you've never visited before, maybe Tokyo, Rome, or Cape Town. You turn a corner and there it is, the Green Mermaid logo. That familiar sight instantly makes you feel at home. That's what Starbucks became, not just a coffee shop, but a place recognized in nearly every corner of the world. Howard Schultz had taken his dream and turned it into something enormous. By the 2000s, Starbucks wasn't just in America. It was in Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond. People from different cultures, speaking different languages, could all share the same experience of enjoying a coffee in a warm, welcoming place. For Howard, success wasn't just about numbers. Yes, Starbucks had thousands of stores and made billions of dollars, but what mattered more to him was the connection, the vision he had in his heart. A place where anyone could feel valued was now real. It was proof that dreams, when fueled by determination, can become global realities. But with success came responsibility. Howard never forgot where he came from. He remembered the struggles of his family, the hard days in Brooklyn, the way money was always tight, and how dignity mattered just as much as food on the table. He wanted to use his success to help others climb their own mountains. Starbucks began offering health care to employees, something unheard of for part-time workers in America at the time. College tuition help followed. For Howard, it wasn't charity, it was fairness. If we succeed, he believed, we succeed together. Outside the company, he became a voice for social change. He invested in programs for young people who didn't have opportunities. He worked on projects to help communities in need. Howard knew what it felt like to be overlooked, and he was determined to make sure fewer people had to feel that way. And yet, even at the height of success, Howard stayed humble. He often told his team, "We are only as good as the experience we create for the person who walks through our door today." In other words, past success didn't guarantee tomorrow's victories. You had to keep working, keep caring, keep trying. For English learners like you, Howard's story is a reminder. Success is not just about reaching the top. It's about how you climb. It's about remembering the people who helped you along the way, and using your achievements to lift others up. Imagine if you set your mind to something, learning English, starting a business, changing careers, and you don't just achieve it for yourself, but you use it to help others too. That's the real meaning of success. Howard's journey proves that the most powerful part of any dream isn't just the finish line, it's what you do once you've crossed it. Howard Schultz always believed that success means more than just making money. For him, true success is about helping others. When Starbucks became popular and started earning more, he didn't just think about opening more stores or selling more coffee. He thought about how Starbucks could make life better for people, both inside and outside the company. From the beginning, Howard treated Starbucks employees like partners. He believed that if you care for your team, they will care for your customers. He made sure that even part-time workers had good health benefits. This was not common at the time, and many business leaders told him it was too expensive. But Howard didn't listen. He said, "If you take care of your people will take care of your business." Starbucks also began to look for ways to help communities around the world. They created programs to buy coffee directly from farmers, especially in countries where farmers often struggled to make a living. Instead of buying the cheapest coffee possible, Starbucks paid fair prices. They invested in better farming methods, education, and clean water projects for farming communities. This way, the people who grew the coffee could have a better life. Howard knew that a cup of coffee could carry a story. The story of a farmer in Colombia, a family in Ethiopia, or a small community in Costa Rica. Starbucks wanted those stories to be stories of hope, not poverty. The company also supported local communities near their stores. They donated food to charities, gave money to local schools, and organized volunteer events where employees could spend time helping others. Howard encouraged this because he believed that business should connect people, not just sell to them. One touching example happened after a natural disaster struck New Orleans. Many businesses left the city, but Starbucks stayed. They helped rebuild, opened their stores again, and supported local recovery efforts. Howard said, "We're not here just to do business. We're here to be part of the community." For Howard, giving back wasn't a marketing trick, it was personal. He remembered what it felt like to have very little, to see his family struggle, and to wish that someone would help. Now that he had the power to help, he made sure to use it. Starbucks also started environmental projects, reducing waste, recycling cups, and finding ways to make coffee production better for the planet. Howard wanted to make sure Starbucks was not only good for people, but also good for the earth. In speeches, he often told young people and entrepreneurs, "Don't just chase profits, chase the difference you can make in the lives of others. Because at the end of your life, what will matter is not how much money you made, but how many people you helped." This philosophy inspired many other companies to start thinking about social responsibility. In a way, Howard showed the business world that kindness and profit can work together. The story of Starbucks community work teaches us something important. Success is not only about reaching the top, but about lifting others up with you. Howard Schultz proved that a company can sell millions of cups of coffee and pour love, care, and opportunity into the world. And for anyone chasing a dream, whether it's starting a business, learning English, or becoming better at what you do, Howard's example is a reminder. When you win, don't just celebrate alone. Share your success. Help someone else climb the mountain. Imagine standing at the top of a hill, looking down at the path you walked. The stones, the mud, the steep climbs, the days when the rain hit your face so hard you wanted to stop, but you didn't stop. You kept going. That is Howard Schultz's story, and it can be your story too. Howard began life in a poor neighborhood. No one told him, "You will one day build a global company." No one gave him a golden ticket to success. What he had was a dream, a strong work ethic, and the courage to keep walking when the road was hard. Starbucks today is in thousands of cities across the world. People meet there for first dates, business meetings, study sessions, or just to take a break from a busy day. But behind that success is not magic. It is the result of years of effort, risk, and learning. Howard faced many no answers before he got his yes. He heard people say, "It's impossible," but he saw possibility. When he didn't have enough money, he found a way. When people doubted his ideas, he proved them wrong, not by shouting, but by working. This is where the lesson comes in for you. You might be learning English right now and feel like you will never be fluent. You might be starting a business and feel the challenges are too heavy. You might be chasing a dream and wonder if it is too far away. But Howard's journey shows that it's not about where you start. It's about how you keep going. Learning English is like building a company. At first, it's awkward. You make mistakes. You feel embarrassed. But the more you practice, the stronger you get. The more you face your fears, the smaller they seem. Howard's success wasn't just about coffee. It was about creating a place where people could feel connected, valued, and inspired. And in the same way, whatever your goal is, it's not just about the end product. It's about the impact you make along the way. One of Howard's famous beliefs is this: in life, you can't just stand still. You're either going forward or backward. If you do nothing, life moves without you. If you take small steps every day, those steps add up. Think about it. The Howard who grew up in Brooklyn didn't know the exact path. He didn't know all the answers, but he was willing to learn, adapt, and never give up. And that is exactly what you can do. So, as we end this story, here's the challenge for you. Take one step today toward your dream. Just one. Learn one new English word. Make one call for your business. Write one page of that book you've been thinking about. Howard's journey is proof that ordinary people can create extraordinary results. You don't need a perfect start. You just need the courage to begin and the strength to continue. Your dream is waiting. Your future is waiting. And if you keep going, one day you'll stand at the top of your own hill, look back and smile, knowing that you made it. If you've listened all the way to this point, I want to pause and say something important. Thank you. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you for following this journey from a young boy with a dream to a global brand that millions know. Thank you for walking with me through every high, every low, every lesson. I know life can sometimes feel heavy. We all carry challenges. Maybe you are facing one right now. Sometimes, what we need most is a story to remind us that hope is still alive. This wasn't just a story about Starbucks. It was about dreams, about hard work, about failing and getting back up, about never letting your circumstances define your future. If Howard Schultz could grow up in a poor neighborhood, face rejection, lose sleep over failing stores, and still rise to build something so big, maybe, just maybe, you can take the next step toward your own dream. Maybe you can start that small project. Maybe you can study that skill. Maybe you can forgive yourself for a mistake and try again. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Dreams grow slowly. Like a seed in the ground, they take time. But if you water them with effort, belief, and patience, one day they will bloom. So here's my request for you today. If this story touched you, if it made you feel a spark of hope or motivation, share it with someone who might need it. You never know whose life you could brighten. Maybe they're feeling stuck. Maybe they're ready to give up. Your share might be the thing that keeps them going. Let this be a chain reaction of encouragement. Pass the story on. Give the gift of hope. And as you go forward, remember this. You are more capable than you think. You are stronger than your failures. And you are worthy of the life you dream about. Thank you for reading. Thank you for believing. And thank you for being part of this journey.